All right, so we've had some new additions in the streaming wars, and I thought it would be good to get a little bit of update on what's going on with them. And I'm going to start out with one that Dave and I basically haven't had. I'm sorry, that Dave and I haven't really had any interest in, but I think it's still important to cover. So I'm going to. So this is from Slashfilm.com, and this is about Quibi. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Again, this was not a service that I was particularly interested in. But it says, the headline reads, Quibi could lose $500 million in 2020. $500 million. And Quibi just came out, by the way. And the article says, oh, excuse me. I need to get back up here. I'm having mine here because it's not showing the article correctly. Here we go. Oh, Quibi, Quibi, Quibi. Like Icarus, you flew too close to the sun with wings made of wax. And by that I mean you attempted to launch a new streaming service that no one seemed particularly interested in. And it looks like it's going to cost you to the tune of $500 million. However, Quibi isn't out of business yet, and the short-form streaming service still has enough money to keep the lights on, but for how long? Now, what's funny about this is, again, this is a service that I don't think Dave and I really had any interest in. And for those of you that don't understand what Quibi is, well, quite frankly, a lot of us don't understand what Quibi is. Quibi is supposed to compete for the mobile market, which we talked about before is dominated by YouTube, and people like us, creators like us, dominate the mobile streaming market. And Quibi is trying to get into that market using quote unquote like premium content. So the idea being that they're actually having these sort of micro shows that are like 10 minutes long. I actually saw recently that Reno 911 is coming back to Quibi, which I thought was interesting. But the problem is that this article talks about it. The problem is one of the big marketing points of Quibi was the idea that people would watch these 10-minute shows on their commute to work. So when they're using the subway, using the bus, maybe they're doing the carpool, right? They're doing the carpool to work. Hopefully not the people actually driving. But the idea was that people will watch these little mini-sodes on their phone as they're going to work. And guess what's happening right now? Do I have to say it? A lot of people are not going to work right now. So this is really hitting Quibi's bottom line. And the fact of the matter is, it says the Quibi app has reportedly been downloaded 3.1 million times, which sounds pretty good. But the problem is they're offering a 90-day free trial. So those 3.1 million people right now, they're not paying for it. And we're not going to know for some time yet whether they will pay for it. So this is pretty interesting. Again, I know, Dave, this is not something that you were all that interested in, but I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are on Quibi's situation right now.
Well, I'm not too terribly surprised that they're losing money, just because when we had discussed this previously, there's just nothing content-wise on there that I'm terribly interested in. Okay, Reno 911 is coming back there. Okay, all right. That's not enough to, you know what I mean, to motivate me. That doesn't mean that it couldn't, you know, that show was very popular when it was on. I'm sure it has the chance to pull a large audience. So I don't know. You know, that's kind of the thing I said before when we talked about this. It's like with some of this stuff, at the end of the day, it doesn't just come down to, you know, quantity of content. It does come down to quality content. But beyond that, it really hinges upon, well, what is the content? You know, what is your niche? You know, what is it that you represent in the marketplace? What is it that you particularly kind of have to offer to sell? You know, for example, CBS All Access leans very heavily into the fact that, you know, CBS All Access, that's Star Trek, right? When you turn around and you look at...
it has New Trek. Well, I guess it does have Star Trek as well.
But it has
the
original.
It has the original catalog as well. It's not all New Trek, but it's based on New Trek because you can find real Trek in other places. I just want to...
I know. I know that you're... I know. But the only point I'm trying to make, though, is that from a marketing standpoint, they lean very heavily in that they're the source for Star Trek. Okay. You know, and each one of the different services, as time goes on, you know, they kind of have that thing that they're kind of known for, right? You know, Netflix, you know, what was the most popular thing people used to watch on there actually was Friends, or it was The Office, you know, and they're losing that content to other providers. So when I think about a service like Quibi or any new service that's coming out, that's what you're going to have to do. How are you going to differentiate yourself from these other different services, you know, in order to necessarily like hold, for example, I can only look at from my own perspective, my attention, you know. But unfortunately for Quibi, QB, whatever they want to call themselves, there's no content on there that I'm interested in, you know. For example, at least with Apple Plus, they had that Snoopy in Space show that I'm still kind of interested in. I'm not going to pay for it, you know, unless I could just get just those episodes. But because I don't want to subscribe to, and that's the thing, I don't want to subscribe to another service. So because I've got too many as it is. So before I'll even think about even doing a trial of this Quibi thing, I mean, you know, what is it that they have? And we've discussed it previously. Their big hook was, we've got 10-minute shorts from all these great creators. Okay, all right. That's not enough to make me want to try it. You know what I mean? It's just, that's not going to move. That's not going to motivate me. That might motivate someone else. So the fact that they're losing money, I'm not shocked. How's that? That's a very long-winded way to say I'm not shocked.
Well, it's kind of funny because I'm interested in this short form. Like, I've always kind of thought in my head, wouldn't it be nice to have a place for shorts, for short film, where you could actually market and monetize it? And Quibi could be that place, since they're getting people used to a shorter form of entertainment, of produced entertainment. And in that respect, Quibi would be interesting to me. But the problem is it's only meant for mobile viewing. They're not going to do a PlayStation 4 app. And as I've talked many times, I use the PlayStation 4 app to view most of my streaming content because I like to watch it on my big screen. I don't like to watch on this thing. I hate watching on this thing. I don't understand people that do. It strains my eyes. It's just not comfortable. It strains my neck. I understand the idea of being on a commute, or, you know, you're on a carpool and you do that, or you travel a lot and you do that. I get that. I do get that. But it's not the way that I like to ingest my entertainment. So I think that is one kind of fatal flaw, in my opinion, of Quibi, because I do think short form produced content, if we could develop a market for that, I'd be all for that. You know what I mean? Especially as an independent filmmaker, I'd be all for that if there was a market for it.
Well, see, my big thing is, for example, like right now, like when I go to watch a movie trailer on YouTube, for example, I end up having to watch like one or two commercials before basically I watch the commercial for the movie. Okay. It typically doesn't bother me that much. Okay. But when you're talking about a 10-minute short buffered, because, you know, and I don't know if they do ad supported stuff or not, but I don't know. I mean, I'm a big believer in shorts too. It's not like I think less of shorts. It was just, at the end of the day, it doesn't have something to kind of, it just doesn't have anything to capture my attention. You know, like, for example, like if they were creating a bunch of interesting, groundbreaking, you know, 10-minute shorts, and among those, you know, they brought on some of the new emerging minds in science fiction, and they're going to have a whole section dedicated to, you know, new interpretations or new whatever in science fiction. You know what I mean? Oh, that sounds interesting. Or action adventure or anything. You know, to just say we're going to create a bunch of 10-minute shorts with all these different people, it's like, okay. You know, but sometimes actors and actresses and even comedians, they don't just do the same thing all the time. You know, so just because you say you have so-and-so and they're creating some 10-minute short material for something, it's like, is it going to be funny? Is it going to be serious? Is it going to be action adventure? Is it going to be, you know, genre style? Like what is it that's the thing. It's like that when it comes to Quibi, that's the only thing I remember. They're creating 10-minute shorts with these people. Okay. In this episode tonight, we're going to be talking about one of the most versatile, talented actors who actually started out doing stand-up comedy, but he didn't always do the same thing either. That's what I'm saying. It's just from a marketing standpoint, I don't understand what it is they offer the marketplace. It's different than anyone else. It's just they're also out there.
Well, I think they've done a terrible job marketing their shows because for the most part, I don't know any of their shows. The only one that I'm aware of, and I only found out about it, I think, yesterday from a television ad, watching over-the-air broadcast TV. Those of you that don't know, I'm a big antenna guy. I use my antenna a ton. I watch Heroes and Icons, and I watch Comet free over the air all the time. And I think I just saw an ad for Reno 911. I was like, oh, that's going to be on Quibi. That's the first show that I've seen advertised for Quibi where I was like, oh, interesting. Because I see the ads all the time on Twitter. I'm on Twitter a lot, and I see ads from Quibi all the time on Twitter. And I'll look at the show that they're advertising, and I'm like, not interested. So I think that the message there, obviously, is that content is key. And we've been pretty consistent on this show talking about that. It's always going to be about the content. It's always going to be about the content. And it's got to be something that draws you in, regardless of whether it's 10 minutes long, 30 minutes long, or an hour long, whatever it is.
Yeah. And for me, that's kind of where, Quibi, QB, whatever sits, in my mind, they don't occupy any kind of an interesting niche. So I'm not really concerned about what they're doing. They would have to come up with something, in order for me to be, oh, well, that's interesting, because eventually, I oftentimes when it comes to certain things, I do occasionally go, okay, whatever, I'll try it or I'll do this or whatever. We've seen an example of that at the beginning of this show when I bought those X-Men little Funko Pop guys. So I am able to be manipulated, you know what I mean? And see myself, parted from my money. But right now they haven't given me any. Well, here you go. How about an 8-part, 10-minute reimagining of Buck Rogers? Okay, there you go.
There you go.
Now I'm down.
I like that.
Now I'm down.
I like that.
Gil Gerard's going to come back. Aaron Gray's going to come back. They're going to do, some sort of supporting roles. But they're going to totally reimagine, the original, the 80s. At least we think of the original, the 80s show, and whatever. It's like, okay, cool. Now I feel compelled to learn more about Quibi or QB. Now I actually care enough to learn how to pronounce the name correctly.
No, that's a great point. No, like I said, I think we've been consistent that content is key.